Hi guys, so I'm in a little different background today. This is mainly because my nan's downstairs. She's entertaining her friends and doing a little book club thing, and I don't want to disturb them or push them out the front room. So I'm doing my video from upstairs. That's the first thing. Before I start this video, it is a reaction video to another YouTube channel. I will link it down below. I'm going to try and extend on a lot of the points he made about family and marriage, and also relate them to veganism. However, if you don't want to get married, or you don't want to have children, or whatever, that's down to you. I think that marriage and children are better for society, and I think that vegans having children and getting married would be better for the vegan movement as well. So that's just one disclaimer out the way. The second disclaimer is that I'm personally unsure about having children, but I think children benefit society and benefit the vegan movement.
Hello, this is a response video to Vegan Ariel on the subject of marriage and having children and whether I think it's a good thing. It's not a topic that I would normally speak about because it's not something that really interests me, but it could have implications in social implications in the development and ongoing progress of society, so I think it's worth discussing. So what do I think of marriage? Well, marriage is a social construct, normally a religious one based on loose associations with Christianity. So if one gets married, it's normally a sort of social contract which is binding and normally favors women. When men want to get a divorce, for example, women get a high amount of the assets of the man who wants to divorce from the relationship. So it can be a huge hassle, and I think that having ad hoc relationships is a lot more convenient and a lot more logical in some ways. So that's why I oppose making the social construct that is marriage. It's just a contract, it's nothing more, it's just an inconvenience, and you got to pay people to get that arranged. So no marriage is good. It keeps you loose and flexible. It keeps you non-committed.
Okay, so the first thing I want to do is separate marriage and divorce, because they're two completely different things. Divorce disadvantages everyone, and marriage advantages everyone. So yeah, if we firstly talk about marriage, people who are married live more financially stable, happier and healthier lives. One interesting fact that I actually found was the fact that men who are married are less likely to die of cancer and various other illnesses. And this is because women push their husbands and their boyfriends into going and getting medical checks and various other things. So I thought that was really cute. Also, with divorce, I think divorce is obviously really bad. Divorce doesn't just benefit women, though, it disadvantages women. If you have a child under 5, you're having to pay out £12,000 in childcare a year, and this is very difficult for someone to manage by themselves. Even with child tax credit, the husband would only be paying a quarter of that towards the child, and yeah, it's just not good. I mean, as a single parent, you'd have to manage the roles of both parents. You'd have to try and work while also trying to look after the kids full time. It doesn't benefit anyone, divorce. It also disadvantages children from divorce, because children who are from divorced households are more likely to get involved in violent crime, and they're less likely to do well in education. So I think it's really important to make sure that you don't just kind of forget about marriage and because of the high divorce rate, that you try and reduce your risk of getting a divorce. I think this is the most important thing to do. you can easily do this by marrying a woman who hasn't got children. Women who have children outside wedlock are more likely to get divorced. And this is because if you're the biological father of that child, it pushes you into a more committed relationship than you might be happy with at that stage of a relationship, or it pushes you into a more committed relationship with someone that you're not really compatible with. So I think that you need to be very careful on who you marry. If she has children from a previous relationship and you decide to marry her, again, this also causes issues because as a stepdad, you often don't have the same interest in the children as you would if you were a biological parent. You have your own ideas, you have your own wants from the relationship, and often that doesn't really include putting the children first. Or maybe you are trying to put the children first, but these children have already been raised in a certain way for so long, and so if you impose different rules than the parents were imposing, it just causes a bit of a rift and a bit of a difficulty there. Another way of reducing your rate of divorce is by not marrying at too young age. I mean, people who marry at the age of 18, maybe early 20s, they're not really sure what they want out of a relationship yet. So don't get married too young. And I think just following a few simple guidelines on the types of people that you marry or the types of things that you do to reduce your risk of getting a divorce is a way of overcoming some of those risks and getting into a good, committed, happy long-term relationship.
Marriage is good. It keeps you loose and flexible. It keeps you non-committed. It means that you can have multiple partners and not be so offensive to everybody else, and so inconvenient and be inconvenienced to yourself. And now, in regards to having children, marriage is often construed as um, a kind of vehicle to have children, which is unfortunate because I don't believe in having children of your own blood, although I think adopting children is okay. I believe that having offspring is wasteful to the planet, and I believe that we need to come to a stage where we're not reproducing the human species at such a high rate. At some stage in the world's development, I think that having one child rather than two children per couple is a reasonable thing to do, but I certainly don't believe in it now. I'm a total antinatalist at the moment, so I believe in having no children, and for that reason, if marriage equates to having children as well, then I think it's an absolute disaster for the planet. So that's my reasoning, and it's been a short video, but that's what I believe about marriage and children. Alright, bye for now.
So I have a couple of issues with this. The fact is that it's not the West who are reproducing too much, it's the third world developing countries. And the only reason that the UK population is going up and up and up and the Western population is going up and up and up is because we're immigrating people from other countries that produce more people. And I'm not saying that this is well, I think that this can be bad. I think that too much multiculturalism can be bad because I think that we need enough people to actually get these people integrated into our society, and we need to try and focus on schemes which integrate these people into our society. I find it difficult, even with places like China. um, if you immigrate to China or you kind of do a working contract in China, one of the interesting things that they will do is they're like, oh, well, you can hang out with all these Western people. You know, these Western people sound really cool. And, you know, they have you know, social events for all the au pairs every evening, and they do this and this and this. The issue is that if you move somewhere, there should be a scheme to try and get you as integrated as possible into that culture. There should be schemes in order to get you to have, if you're moving to China, Chinese friends, or if you move to England, English friends. And your aim as a foreigner, if you're moving to another country, should be that you like that culture, that you want to be part of that culture, that there are things that you appreciate about that culture, and your aim in life is to get married to, well, maybe in my case, a Chinese man, and, have lots of Chinese friends and maybe some, Chinese English babies. So it shouldn't, as a foreigner, your aim shouldn't be to come to a country and just hang out with people from your own race. Your aim should be to integrate into that culture. um, and I just think that it's kind of very, very bad when we have too much immigration, or we have immigration and we're not encouraging people to integrate into the culture. Um, this basically just means that the culture of the West will just change significantly over time, and I don't particularly want the West to be somewhere where the white British culture is just a subculture and it's not actually, the main culture anymore. So I think too much immigration changes the culture too much, and I think that we can't be just, I mean, you not having kids in the West doesn't impact the third world. It just means that they'll just immigrate more people from the third world because there's lots of antinatalists in the West. What you need to do to reduce the rate of the birth rate is invest in things like fair trade products and try and create schools in these countries and try and reduce child labour so that having kids becomes less financially viable for people in these third world countries, so that it becomes a financial liability as opposed to a financial benefit of some description. So you don't reduce the number of humans by being an antinatalist in the West. You do this by having upward mobility in places like China, well, not China, yeah, in places like, in third world countries, basically. Okay, so the second thing I wanted to say is I believe, based on the literature that I've done and the studies that I've read, that having vegan children is more likely to convert people to the next generation to veganism, as talking to people on the street and trying to get strangers to go vegan. The reason for this is that one of the reasons that people stop being vegan is they don't have friends or family that are vegan, so they don't have these familial or family relationships that they need to stay vegan. They find it hard to integrate with their family and friends at social events. And I think that if you have children that are vegan, it's going to be easier for them to go vegan because they have more family ties which are tying them to that diet. Another interesting finding that I actually read was that one of the main reasons that people are vegan is because it's a deeper option. Because their family were vegan and they brought them up as vegan, and so they just stayed in a vegan diet and didn't really think about it. And this should be the default option, because if veganism was the default option, we would do a lot better for the planet. And we'll do a lot better for animals. Less animals would die. So I think that having vegan children benefits the vegan movement, and I think having Western children, it helps to retain the Western culture, and I don't think that the West having children would in any way impact the environment at all, because if we don't have Western children, people will just start immigrating more people from abroad, and these people will also contribute to energy the high energy of the West. So I know the West actually takes a lot more energy than these third world countries. But if you've immigrated from a third world country to the UK and you've got a job here and you've got a house, you're probably going to expend a lot of energy because you're going to want a better life than you had back home, or you're going to want a better life than your family had. Thank you for watching, guys. Please subscribe and like this channel, and yeah, definitely check out the YouTuber that I responded to and my brother's YouTube channel down below.